You know, we're standing at a pretty historic tipping point in the global economy. And believe it or not, it's all about a metal most of us just take for granted: copper. Today, we're going to break down why this overlooked resource is quickly becoming one of the most critical and fought over commodities on the entire planet.
You've probably heard this phrase starting to pop up. Think about it. Oil completely defined the 20th century. It powered industries, it shaped geopolitics, the whole shebang. Well, there's a really compelling argument being made now that in this century, the 21st, copper is taking on that exact same role. It's not just some simple metal for pipes and wires anymore. It's become a strategic global asset.
And this shift is fundamental, right? Oil powered the age of combustion. Copper? Well, copper is powering our new age of electricity and information. It is the essential, absolutely non-negotiable ingredient for pretty much every major trend that's shaping our future. We're talking everything from artificial intelligence to the green energy transition. Its strategic importance has just been completely rewritten.
So what's actually driving this massive change? The thing is, it's not just one thing. It's more like a perfect storm. We are witnessing a demand shock from three enormous simultaneous global trends, and they are all hitting at the exact same time.
Okay, so here's a piece of the puzzle that a lot of investors are completely missing. When we think of AI, we think of software, right? Something that lives up in the cloud. But that cloud has a physical home, these massive, sprawling data centers. And those data centers are incredibly copper intensive. They need it for everything from just delivering power to running these complex cooling systems. So the AI and data center boom, that's our first pillar. The second is this huge movement toward the electrification of everything. Think EVs, grid upgrades, you name it. And the third pillar, which is a bit quieter but still significant, is a rise in global defense and infrastructure spending. You put those three forces together and you get this powerful and likely permanent floor for copper demand.
Let's just take the electrification pillar for a second. A regular gas-powered car uses some copper, sure, but an electric vehicle, it uses 3 to 4 times more. We're talking about 80 kilograms of it. Now multiply that by the millions and millions of EVs hitting the roads every year. Then add all the copper needed to upgrade our power grids just to handle them. The scale here is just staggering.
Okay, so we've got this incredible, multi-layered demand story. But that's only half the equation. The other half is where the real crisis is brewing, the supply side. Because while demand is absolutely exploding, global supply is hitting a wall that it, frankly, just can't seem to break through. And this is the obvious question, right? If the price of something goes up and we need more of it, well, you just go out and you produce more. Simple economics. But with copper, it is nowhere near that simple. There are these deep structural reasons why you can't just flip a switch and get new supply online. It's basically impossible.
To really get the supply problem, you have to know about what analysts call the 15-year rule. From the very moment a new, viable copper deposit is discovered, it takes, on average, 15 years to get that metal to the market. 15 years! That's a decade and a half of navigating permits, building all the infrastructure, and finally starting production. So let's be clear, a new mine discovered today wouldn't actually help us until the late 2030s.
And on top of that massive time lag, we've got two other major problems. First, we've already mined the easy stuff, the high-quality copper that was close to the surface. New mines have much lower ore grades, which means you have to move and process way more rock to get the same amount of metal. That drives costs way up. Second, a lot of the world's best copper deposits are in geopolitically tricky regions, like South America and Africa, where things like new taxes, protests, or shutdowns can just disrupt the entire supply chain at a moment's notice.
So what happens when you have unstoppable demand colliding head-on with an immovable supply wall? Well, you get the perfect conditions for what economists call a supercycle. And this isn't just some short-term price spike. We're talking about a fundamental, long-term imbalance in the market.
It really all boils down to this simple equation. You've got relentlessly rising demand, driven by huge trends like AI and electrification, meeting a supply that's basically flat, or in some cases, even declining. The result? A deep structural deficit, where the world is on track to consume way more copper than it can possibly produce for years and years to come. And just so we're all on the same page about what a supercycle is, we are not talking about a temporary blip. A supercycle is a sustained, often decade-plus long trend. It's driven by a fundamental, structural shift in the global economy, exactly the kind of tectonic change we're seeing right now with the energy and technology transition. Okay, so given this whole setup, the next logical question is, how might an investor actually think about this trend? If this is happening, what are the ways to gain exposure to the copper market? Well, there are three main pathways.
First up, you've got mining stocks. This gives you what's called operational leverage. Basically, if copper prices go up by, say, 10%, a miner's profits can go up by a lot more. The second path is futures, which is a much more direct bet on the price of the commodity itself. And third, there's a really interesting and growing area, recycling. As new mining gets harder and more expensive, companies that can efficiently recycle copper from old electronics and cables, these urban miners, they become more and more valuable.
We'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. We all know the future is being built on AI, on data, on electricity. But those are abstract ideas, right? They all have to run on real, physical infrastructure. So the fundamental question this whole trend poses is this: who is going to own the wiring that connects it all? That, right there, is what makes the copper story so incredibly compelling today.